Courtroom cameras captured a moment that would soon take over the internet and ruin a woman's entire life in under 15 minutes. Brenda Harrison, a self-proclaimed advocate for body positivity and discrimination awareness, stood before America's most intimidating TV judge with a smug confidence that only years of manipulating the legal system without consequences could produce. Her practiced victim persona was ready to go, fake tears prepared on command and a binder of manufactured evidence clutched tightly against her designer blazer. She had no idea she was about to ruin her own career on national television, or that the woman she was preparing to insult had already uncovered every lie, scam, and fraudulent lawsuit in her troubled past. What happened next became the most viral courtroom moment in internet history, shared more than 60 million times across every major social platform. But here's what makes this story unbelievable. Brenda didn't just lose her case, and she wasn't just embarrassed on national TV. What Judge Judy did to her in those 12 minutes was so precise, so thorough, and so devastating that it destroyed everything Brenda had spent 5 years building. She walked in expecting an easy $50,000 win and walked out facing criminal fraud charges, losing her 6-figure salary and becoming one of the most hated women online overnight. Before understanding Brenda's complete downfall, it's important to know the man whose life she nearly ruined. David Samuel, a 32-year-old small business owner, had invested his entire life savings into opening Riverside Fitness, a modest neighborhood gym designed for working-class families who couldn't afford large corporate fitness chains. For 3 years, David built a loyal community of members who appreciated his affordable rates, welcoming atmosphere, and genuine dedication to helping people reach their fitness goals regardless of their size, age, or ability. The gym wasn't luxurious, but it was clean, friendly, and filled with people who truly supported each other. Then Brenda Harrison walked in, and David's American dream quickly became a nightmare that nearly cost him everything. The issue that brought them to Judge Judy's courtroom seemed simple: a dispute over gym policies and claims of court discrimination. What the audience didn't know, what Brenda herself never suspected, was that Judge Judy had spent the previous evening examining police records, court files, social media posts, and surveillance footage. She uncovered a pattern so calculated, so manipulative, and so predatory that it ignited the kind of righteous anger longtime viewers recognized as a sign someone was about to be completely dismantled on national television. Brenda wasn't just a difficult gym member. She was a professional victim who had turned discrimination claims into a steady income stream, targeting small businesses that couldn't afford to defend themselves. Over the past 5 years, she had filed 12 discrimination lawsuits against mom-and-pop shops, collecting $85,000 in settlements from hardworking people just trying to survive. She had perfected her strategy. She would enter a small business, deliberately create a confrontation, film herself crying and claiming discrimination, post the footage online to damage their reputation, and then demand a settlement costing less than a lengthy legal battle. It was extortion disguised as social justice, and she repeatedly got away with it by manipulating the legal system and public opinion. But Brenda made one catastrophic miscalculation that ultimately led to her downfall. She assumed Judge Judy Sheindlin was just another authority figure who could be swayed by tears, claims of victimhood, and accusations of discrimination. She had no idea she was about to face a woman who had presided over 20,000 cases during her 25 years as a Manhattan family court judge, someone who had encountered every kind of scammer, liar, and con artist imaginable, and who had absolutely zero tolerance for people who exploited real social issues for personal gain. Brenda had spent weeks preparing for this appearance. She studied Judge Judy episodes, rehearsed her tear-filled performances, and boosted her social media presence in anticipation of her big viral moment. She even posted the night before, telling her 50,000 followers that she was about to educate a TV judge on what real discrimination looked like. She entered the courtroom with the confidence of someone who had never faced consequences, fully ready to put on another performance and walk away with yet another easy payout. She had no idea she was about to lose everything to understand the magnitude of what Judge Judy was about to unleash. You have to understand who Brenda Harrison truly was and the trail of damage she had left behind over the past 5 years. Brenda wasn't a confused activist who believed she was fighting discrimination. She was a calculated predator who discovered that small business owners, terrified of being labeled discriminatory, were the easiest targets in America. Her method was simple, but devastatingly effective. She researched local, family-run businesses with no corporate legal teams or PR departments. Then she walked in with her phone ready to record, deliberately broke basic rules or social expectations, and waited for someone to correct her politely. The moment anyone said anything, she launched into a rehearsed breakdown, accusing them of discrimination while capturing everything for her. Online following. Her previous victims resembled a list of shattered dreams and ruined livelihoods. There was Maria's Kitchen, a small Mexican restaurant run by a 63-year-old owner who simply asked Brenda to wait for a table during the busy dinner rush, just like every other customer. Brenda accused her of discrimination, posted a viral video claiming she was denied service because of her size, and the resulting flood of one-star reviews forced Maria to close after 30 years in business. Then there was Cutting Edge Salon, where a young stylist named Jennifer gently explained that the salon chairs had a weight limit for safety and offered to bring in a reinforced chair for Brenda's appointment. Instead of accepting the accommodation, Brenda filmed herself crying about humiliation and fat-shaming, sued for $20,000. And the salon owner settled just to end the ordeal. The pattern played out again and again. A boutique clothing store that didn't carry her size. A movie theater enforcing a one-seat per ticket policy. A spa with weight-restricted massage tables to protect their therapists. Every time, Brenda followed the same formula: manufacture outrage, weaponize social media, and pressure small businesses into settlements they couldn't afford to fight. Every time, Brenda twisted reasonable policies into discrimination claims, turned ordinary people into viral villains, and forced small businesses into paying settlements. But her success wasn't only about choosing vulnerable targets. It relied heavily on her day job, which gave her the perfect cover and the perfect weapon. As a human resources director for a mid-sized corporate firm, she had just enough legal knowledge to sound convincing and just enough authority to seem credible. She threw around phrases like hostile environment, protected class status, and systemic discrimination with the confidence of someone who had sat through countless workplace harassment training sessions. Her corporate background taught her exactly which buttons to push, which words sparked legal fear in small business owners, and how to twist even the most harmless interactions into something that sounded like a civil rights violation. She had weaponized the language of workplace discrimination law and turned it into her personal ATM. Her social media presence was crafted to support her scheme. She built a following of 50,000 people who genuinely believed she was fighting real discrimination, followers who would immediately attack any business she targeted, without asking questions or seeking evidence. Her posts mixed inspirational body positivity messages, screenshots of lawsuits, and tearful videos about her supposed experiences with discrimination. She publicly positioned herself as a champion of the marginalized, while privately laughing at how easy it was to exploit people's genuine desire to fight injustice. The situation at Riverside Fitness followed her usual script, but with one crucial twist she wasn't prepared for. David Samuel had security cameras covering every corner of his gym, and unlike her previous victims, he wasn't willing to pay her off just to make her disappear. On the morning of March 15th, Brenda entered Riverside Fitness during the busy morning rush. When the gym was packed with members squeezing in workouts before work, she went through her usual routine, spending nearly 2 hours moving from machine to machine, intentionally leaving each piece of equipment soaked with sweat and refusing to wipe anything down despite multiple posted signs reminding all members to clean equipment after use. Gym members complained to staff about the unsanitary mess she was creating, pointing out that she was ignoring basic etiquette everyone else followed without issue. After the 5th complaint, David approached her with the same polite, friendly tone he used for any member who forgot a rule. The security footage Judge Judy would later show made everything unmistakably clear. David smiled kindly and said, "Excuse me, ma'am. A few members mentioned that some equipment hasn't been wiped down. Would you mind using the cleaning spray and towels after each machine? We ask all our members to do this, to keep things sanitary for everyone." It was one of the most polite, non-confrontational requests possible, delivered with genuine respect by a man who treated everyone equally, regardless of appearance. But Brenda Harrison had been waiting for that exact moment. The security cameras caught her expression shifting in real time, from calm concentration to manufactured outrage. She had been waiting for a confrontation since the moment she walked through the doors. And David's polite request was the trigger she needed to launch her rehearsed performance. Within seconds, she erupted into a shouting tirade about discrimination and fat-shaming, her voice echoing throughout the gym as stunned members paused their workouts to watch. She whipped out her phone with the speed of someone drawing a weapon, angling it to capture her face twisted in exaggerated distress. While she yelled that she was being targeted because of her appearance, gym members stood frozen, confused as to how a simple reminder about basic hygiene had turned into an accusation of discrimination. But Brenda was only beginning her act. She stormed toward the exit, still filming, her voice breaking into practiced sobs as she declared she had never been so humiliated in her life, that the gym was clearly fat-phobic, and that she would make sure everyone knew what she had supposedly endured. Within 3 hours, her video had gone viral across every major social media platform. She edited the footage so it began with her crying and David's voice asking her to wipe down equipment, intentionally removing all context. The member complaints, the posted signs, and her 2-hour pattern of ignoring gym policies. Her caption read, "I was just trying to work out and improve my health when the gym owner singled me out and publicly humiliated me for my size. This is what fat phobia looks like in America." Her 50,000 followers instantly rallied behind her, attacking Riverside Fitness with 1-star reviews, threatening phone calls, and demands that the gym be shut down for discrimination. Local news stations picked up the story, running segments about gym discrimination without investigating Brenda's claims or reaching out to David for his side. Within a week, David lost 40% of his membership as customers canceled their subscriptions, afraid to be associated with a business now labeled discriminatory. His Yelp page became flooded with 1-star reviews from people who had never stepped inside. His business bank account drained quickly as refund requests poured in and new memberships disappeared entirely. Then came the lawsuit. Brenda filed a $50,000 claim for emotional distress, defamation, and discrimination, betting that David couldn't afford a long legal fight and would settle just to survive. But David Samuel wasn't like her past targets. He had security footage. He had member complaints documenting her behavior. And most importantly, he had the determination of someone who refused to let a scammer destroy the business he built from the ground up. He filed a countersuit and requested a hearing on Judge Judy, convinced that if he could show the truth publicly, justice would finally be on his side. When Brenda's lawyer learned the case was headed for television court, he urged her to drop it immediately, warning her that Judge Judy was notorious for dismantling fraudulent plaintiffs. But Brenda's arrogance drowned out that advice. After binge-watching dozens of Judge Judy episodes, she convinced herself she understood exactly how to manipulate the show. She believed her tears, her social media presence, and her HR background would easily sway both the judge and the audience. When the taping day arrived, Brenda walked into the courtroom with the swagger of a celebrity stepping onto a red carpet. She had chosen her outfit with careful intention, no designer blazer, paired with a flowing dress she thought made her look both credible and sympathetic. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup meticulously applied, and her leather binder stuffed with printed social media posts, fabricated testimonials from followers, and selectively edited screenshots that supported her story. She shot David a look of pure contempt as she took her place, already picturing his humiliation and imagining how her victory would go viral. Her friend Rachel sat in the audience, phone in hand, ready to capture behind-the-scenes content for Brenda's social media accounts. The two of them whispered and giggled about how this was going to be Brenda's biggest payday yet. They had no idea that Judge Judy was sitting at her bench reviewing a packet filled with security footage, text message records, financial documents detailing Brenda's settlement history, and statements from previous victims who had finally stepped forward. Judge Judy opened the proceedings with her signature no-nonsense tone, her sharp gaze sizing up both parties with the practiced instinct of someone who had encountered every variety of liar and manipulator imaginable. Her voice sliced through the courtroom with surgical clarity as she addressed Brenda directly. "Ms. Harrison, you're suing Mr. Samuel for $50,000, claiming he discriminated against you at his gym. Tell me exactly what happened, and stick to the facts." It was a deceptively simple request. Kind of question honest people answer without effort and liars immediately trip over. Brenda took a slow breath and launched into her rehearsed narrative, her voice meticulously adjusted to sound both wounded and courageous. She described joining Riverside Fitness to improve her health, how she had been quietly minding her own business during her workout, and how David had supposedly walked up to her in front of everyone and singled her out because of her size. She paused at dramatic moments, letting her voice crack as she talked about the humiliation she felt, the stares from other gym members, and the overwhelming emotional toll the alleged discrimination had taken on her mental health and self-esteem. She then pulled out her phone and showed the viral video, the same clip that had destroyed David's reputation, boasting millions of views and thousands of supportive comments. Judge Judy watched it with the cool detachment of someone observing a predictable experiment. She didn't interrupt Brenda once, allowing her to lay out every exaggerated detail and shed every calculated tear, letting her dig her own hole deeper with each sentence. When Brenda finally ended her speech with a shaky statement about how no one should ever have to endure such treatment, Judge Judy shifted her attention to David Samuel. "Mr. Samuel," she said, "she claims you discriminated against her. What's your version of events?" David's response was simple, direct, and completely free of the theatrics Brenda had layered onto her own testimony. He explained that Riverside Fitness required all members to wipe down equipment after use, that this rule was clearly posted throughout the gym, and that he had received multiple complaints about machines being left dirty. He stated that he approached Brenda with the same polite reminder he would give to anyone, never mentioning her size or appearance, and that her reaction was wildly disproportionate to a basic request about hygiene. Brenda couldn't hold back. She scoffed loudly, rolled her eyes with exaggerated flair, and angled her face toward the cameras to ensure her disbelief was captured. "Your Honor, that is absolutely ridiculous. Everyone knows what really happened. He targeted me because of how I look, and now he's trying to hide behind some so-called gym policy. Judge Judy's eyebrow lifted slightly, an unmistakable signal long time. Viewers recognized as the moment before someone stepped directly into a trap. Ms. Harrison, she said. Are you claiming Mr. Samuel's gym does not have a policy requiring members to wipe down equipment? Brenda sensed what she thought was an opportunity and leaned into it. Look, Your Honor, I'm sure they have some policy written somewhere, but let's be honest about what this really was. This was textbook discrimination. And frankly, with all due respect, you're just a TV judge. You don't understand real courtroom law like actual lawyers do. This is clearly a civil rights violation, and any real judge would see that immediately. A heavy silence dropped over the courtroom, the kind that arrives just before everything explodes. Even the camera operator seemed to freeze. Aware that something catastrophic was unfolding in the gallery, Brenda's friend Rachel went pale. Realizing too late that Brenda had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. David Samuel's eyes widened slightly, stunned that anyone would be reckless enough to insult Judge Judy to her face. But Brenda, wrapped in years of unchecked manipulation and convinced of her own brilliance, didn't sense the danger she had just invited. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, a small, knowing smile forming one that resembled a chess master watching an opponent make the exact mistake she had anticipated. Just a TV judge, she repeated slowly, letting the words linger in the air. Is that what you think I am, Ms. Harrison? Just a TV judge who doesn't understand real law. Her voice remained controlled, but there was a razor-sharp edge beneath it. Let me educate you about this TV judge you're so eager to dismiss. I spent 25 years as a Manhattan family court judge, presiding over more than 20,000 cases. I graduated from law school when you were still in diapers. I've dealt with more real legal issues before breakfast than you will in your entire lifetime. So when you stand in my courtroom and tell me I don't understand real law, you'd better have your facts straight. The confidence drained from Brenda's face as she realized just how badly she had miscalculated. But Judge Judy was only warming up. She reached for the thick folder that had been sitting on her bench since the hearing began. The folder Brenda had assumed was just routine paperwork. Now, Miss Harrison, Judge Judy continued, since you're apparently such an expert on real law, let's go over your qualifications for lecturing me about discrimination claims. My research team did some very interesting digging into your background, and I think the audience deserves to know exactly who you are. Color rose in Brenda's cheeks as Judge Judy opened the folder with deliberate, unhurried precision. Inside were documents representing years of deceit finally coming to the surface. Let's start with your lawsuit history, shall we? In the past 5 years, you filed 12 separate discrimination lawsuits against small businesses. 12. And you've collected a total of $85,000 in settlements from hard-working people who couldn't afford to fight you. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as the audience realized what they were actually witnessing. This wasn't a discrimination case at all. It was the public unmasking of a serial scammer who had been operating untouched for years. Judge Judy continued dismantling Brenda's credibility step by step, detailing each lawsuit with surgical precision. She spoke of the restaurant owner driven into bankruptcy after Brenda's viral video destroyed her reputation. The hair salon forced to pay $20,000 just to avoid a costly court battle. The boutique clothing store that shut down after being bombed with negative reviews from Brenda's followers. Each revelation struck Brenda visibly, her composure cracking as she sat frozen, her mouth opening and closing without producing a single coherent defense. But Judge Judy wasn't done. And here's where it becomes especially interesting, Miss Harrison. My team obtained the security footage from Riverside Fitness, and I think we should all take a look at what actually happened that day. The courtroom monitors flickered to life, displaying crystal clear footage of Brenda's deliberate tower spree of leaving machines drenched in sweat. the multiple member complaints, and David's extraordinarily polite request that she follow the same rules as everyone else. But the most incriminating footage was the part that came next, the moments before David even approached her, showing exactly what Brenda didn't want anyone to see. And the cameras captured something that would seal her fate permanently. She was smiling, scanning the gym with cold, calculated intent. The footage clearly showed her adjusting her phone to make sure it was positioned and ready to record before she ever spoke to David. The evidence was undeniable and absolutely devastating. Judge Judy then presented the text messages Brenda had sent to her friend Rachel the night before the incident, messages that proved the encounter was premeditated and destroyed the last remnants of her credibility about to hit another gym tomorrow. These fitness places always cave fast. Easy, 50K. Then we celebrate. The words appeared across the courtroom screens. Brenda's face drained of color, shifting from flushed red to chalk white as she realized her entire scheme was being exposed to millions of viewers. In the gallery, Rachel quietly gathered her belongings and tried to slip out, wanting nothing to do with the disaster unfolding in front of her. Brenda finally found her voice, but it lacked the arrogance and certainty she had carried earlier. "That's taken out of context," she whispered, stumbling over her words. "Those messages, they don't mean what you think. I was just venting to a friend." Judge Judy's expression showed she had heard every excuse imaginable in her. Decades on the bench, and Brenda's weak attempt at damage control made no impact whatsoever. "Out of context?" Judge Judy repeated, her voice dripping with disdain. "Ms. Harrison, you are not a victim of discrimination. You are a predator who has spent 5 years destroying small businesses and exploiting real civil rights issues for your own profit. You are exactly what is wrong with our legal system, and I am going to make sure you experience real consequences for the first time in your miserable career." The judgment came swiftly and brutally. Judge Judy ruled entirely in David Samuel's favor, dismissing Brenda's $50,000 claim with prejudice and ordering her to pay $50,000 to David for defamation, lost business revenue, emotional distress, and legal fees. But she didn't stop there. Judge Judy required Brenda to remove every single social media post about Riverside Fitness, to publish a public apology admitting she had lied about being discriminated against, and to provide the names and contact information of every business she had previously sued, so those victims could pursue their own legal action against her. And Ms. Harrison, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for investigation of fraud, extortion, and filing false legal claims. You walked into my courtroom thinking you'd found another easy target, but instead, you've just admitted to a pattern of criminal behavior on national television. Brenda Harrison's collapse was complete. The woman who entered the courtroom dripping with arrogance was now sobbing uncontrollably, mascara streaking down her face as the full weight of her situation crashed onto her. She tried to speak, to beg, to claw back even a shred of control, but Judge Judy's gavel cut through her desperation with finality. "Get out of my courtroom. And the next time you feel like lecturing someone about real law, make sure you're not a criminal." The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. Within 2 hours of the episode airing, Brenda's social media accounts were flooded with rage as her 50,000 followers realized they had been manipulated into defending a fraud. Her employer terminated her HR position on the spot, citing the risk of keeping someone with a proven history of filing false discrimination claims in any role involving workplace policy. The video of her calling Judge Judy just a TV judge followed by her total destruction went viral on every platform, surpassing 60 million views and spawning countless reaction videos and memes. Former victims of her scams began organizing a class action lawsuit to recover the money she had extorted. The district attorney's office launched a full criminal investigation eventually resulting in multiple fraud charges. Her home went into foreclosure as she struggled to pay the judgment owed to David, while simultaneously trying to cover legal fees for her criminal defense. Every piece of her life unraveled with the same precise, methodical force Judge Judy had used in the courtroom. Meanwhile, Riverside Fitness experienced a complete resurgence as the truth spread. Former members returned, apologizing for believing Brenda's lies. New members joined specifically to support David, now seen as a symbol of resilience and justice. His story quickly became a rallying cry for small business owners everywhere who feared being targeted by fraudulent discrimination claims. Brenda Harrison entered Judge Judy's courtroom expecting another effortless payday. She left having lost everything: her job, her reputation, her home, her freedom, and her ability to ever run her scam again. The case became a landmark moment in television history, a pristine demonstration of what happens when arrogance collides with accountability, when someone who believes they're untouchable finally encounters a force they cannot manipulate. Judge Judy delivered more than a ruling. She showed millions that justice still exists for those brave enough to stand up to bullies and scammers, that the truth always surfaces, and that calling a real judge just a TV judge may be one of the most disastrous mistakes a person can make. Brenda Harrison learned the hardest lesson of her life in Judge Judy's courtroom. There are no easy marks, no second chances for frauds, and absolutely no tolerance for people who weaponize discrimination for personal gain. She lost everything and had no one to blame but herself.